Hello everyone and welcome to the Polar Museum at Home. Today we're going to be doing Little Explorers and we're going to have a story from storyteller Marion Leeper, and then afterwards I'm going to show you a few different activities that you could try at home as well. But if you haven't got one already, I recommend that you find a blanket or a sheet so that you can make your own ice cave. But for now I'm going to pass you over to Marion.
Welcome to the Polar Museum at Home. My name's Mary and I'm at home as well. I'm in my ice cave that I built in my back bedroom, and today we're doing Little Explorers at Home. And just like the ones in the museum, you can join in if you want, you can go off and do something else, you can come back later, that's all fine. And we're going to begin with the Little Explorers song. Are you ready? If you want to join in, you need to be able to wave. You need to have brought your thumbs along. Have you got your thumbs? I'm okay. I'm okay. And we say hello in a very polite way. We go, how do you do? Ready? Little explorers, how are you? I'm okay. I'm okay. How do you do? Sometimes we say hello to particular little explorers, like this. Explorer Evie, Explorer Harry, how are you? I'm okay, I'm okay. How do you do? Now it's everyone's turn. Little explorers, say your names too. Shout out loud.
Tally! Oswald! Mama Dana. Sylvia. Walt.
Well done. I'm okay, I'm okay. How do you do? Great singing. This story that we're telling today comes from one of the coldest places on earth. I brought along some ice to put you in the mood. I wonder if you could make a block of ice as big as this one in your freezer. This is quite slippy and wet and it's really cold. This little block of ice, this one has got something hidden inside it. Let's keep an eye on that and see what happens. The people of the far north say that once the whole world was green. Their country was a place of trees. These ones came from my garden. There were mountains, rocks, little bushes. And all the animals lived happily there together. But then the snow came. I haven't got real snow, so I'm using flour. The snow covered everything. Trees, the hills. You see how it's turning white? If I pick this up, you can see the shape underneath. The snow covered everything. The water froze to ice. There were snow mountains. There were huge cliffs of ice. and all the creatures in the world were cold. Even Seal with his thick blubber. Seal was cold. Sick, the Arctic squirrel, was cold. And as for Snow Owl, it's always laughing, just like that. Snow Owl was freezing. The only creature that wasn't cold was Polar Bear, because Polar Bear had made himself a cave of ice. Polar bears still make themselves ice caves. They're rather better than this one because they've got 2 rooms. Well, Polar Bear hadn't been there long when Seal came calling. Polar Bear, said Seal, can I come in your cave? What do you think Polar Bear said? No? Well, yes. Well, if you said yes, you were right. Come in, said Polar Bear. But there's a problem. Problem? In your lovely cave? Yes, said Polar Bear. And there was. Not far from Polar Bear's cave, that's where the dogs lived. A whole pack of dogs. I've only got 2 of them today. And those dogs, their favourite thing was chasing polar bears. And so Polar Bear said to Seal, shh, be very quiet, or you'll wake the dogs and they'll chase us. All right, said Seal. I'll be quiet. They hadn't been there long when Sick, the Arctic squirrel, came calling. Polar Bear, Seal, can I come in your cave? I'm really cold. Yes, said Polar Bear. Come on in. But remember, shh, don't make a noise, or you'll wake the dogs. I'll be really quiet, said Sick. Well, you know what's coming next. Snow Owl. Snow Owl laughed to see all the animals in the cave. You look funny in there. Can I come in? All right, said Polar Bear, but don't make a noise. You'll wake the dogs and they'll chase us. All right, I won't make a noise, said Snow Owl. But she hadn't been in the cave long when Sick's tail began to tickle her, and Seal's whiskers began to tickle her, and she started to laugh. Just like that. She laughed so loudly, she woke the dogs. The dogs came running through the snow, running. And all the animals were terrified. What shall we do? The dogs are going to chase us and catch us, and what will become of us? But Polar Bear, brave Polar Bear, he looked after his friends. Don't worry, he said. You stay here and you'll be quite safe. I'll make sure the dogs don't chase you. So Polar Bear jumped right out of the cave, right in front of the dogs, so that the dogs would chase him and leave his friends alone. And he ran. He ran across the snow and the ice, with the dogs chasing behind him. He ran until he came to the edge of the ice cliff. He couldn't go any further. So he jumped right up into the sky. And those dogs running behind him, they couldn't stop. They jumped as well, up into the sky. And there they are, to this very day. There's a star in the sky, we call it the pole star, but the people of the far north, they call it the polar bear star. And there's a group of 7 stars, we call them the 7 sisters, but the people of the north call them the 7 noisy dogs. I wonder if they'll ever catch Polar Bear. I can't tell you because that's where the story ends. Thank you for listening.
Did you enjoy the story? I know I did. Now, our story today was set in the Arctic. Does anyone know where the Arctic is? That's right, it's at the top of the world, surrounding the North Pole. Now, lots of different people and cultures live in the North, and they have lots of different stories about the patterns of the stars in the sky. Now, those patterns are called constellations. Now, if you go outside when it's dark, maybe you can see if you can find some patterns in the sky and come up with some stories too about why you think that they might be the way they are. But what we're going to do now is make our own constellations to use inside. So I'm going to show you how to do it now, and maybe you can try it later with your grown-up. So what you're going to need is a toilet roll or kitchen roll, a torch, ideally one that fits inside the roll, but if it doesn't, that's okay. Some Play-Doh or some blue tack, a pen, a pointy pencil or a pointy pen, an elastic band, and some paper. So what we're going to do first is take our roll and put it on the paper, and we want to draw a circle around the roll. Okay, now let's have a look. This is what my circle looks like here. Okay, next what we need to do is get our squishy stuff. I've got Play-Doh. In fact, I've got blended Play-Doh of every single colour. And we're going to put it on the paper, underneath the paper. I'm going to squish it with the circle underneath. Now, this part might need help with a grown-up. You need your pointy pencil or biro. And what you want to do is to poke holes in where you've drawn the circle in a pattern. Now, you can draw your own pattern, or you can choose to do one of the real constellations in the sky if you have a look on the internet. So I'm going to draw the 7 sisters, just like from our story today. Now, let me show you. What you do is you peel it away from your Play-Doh or blue tack. There we go. Can you see? I've got the hole through there. Great. Now what we need to do is get our roll, and we're going to put our circle right over the top so that we've got the holes just over. Okay. Can you see what I've done? Yeah? Then we get an elastic band. If you don't have an elastic band, you can insert tape. That means you can't make different constellations with the same roll. Okay, here we go. And then we're going to put our torch inside. Now the next bit needs to be dark. So if you bear with me a minute, I'm just going to go turn the lights up. Oh, it's dark. Not anymore. Okay, now I have got a constellation against my wall here, and I'm going to try and turn this And you can't see very well, but it's much brighter here on the wall. There you go. Hopefully you've come up with some of your own constellations as well. Right, I'm going to go get us some light back. Now you can have lots of fun making different constellations and putting them on your roll if you want to. If you didn't have a roll, or you don't have a torch that fits inside, what you can do is make a pattern on a piece of paper and make the holes in it, and you can try putting it in front of a lamp that you have. It might not necessarily be quite as bright, but if you use darker paper, that can help as well. Right, now we've got our constellations to point us towards the North Pole, we're going to be explorers. So to be an explorer, we have to be able to use our eyes to look around and see everything. We have to be able to use our ears, see what we can hear. We have to use our fingers to what we can touch and feel. Okay, you ready? Right, for this, we need to do some marching. So I'm going to turn it around and I can try and march over here. Right, I still can't stand up properly because I haven't got a lot of space here. So hopefully you'll be able to have space at home. So is everyone ready to march towards the North Pole? Great. Right, here we go. Okay, is everyone marching? Yeah. Oh, I'm starting to get a bit cold. Are you? You know what? We forgot to put our warm things on before we left. Do you think we should quickly go back? Okay, right, quickly run back. Okay, right, what do we need? We need a coat. So everyone put a coat on. Arms on. Do up the zip. There we go. Right, what else? Can you think of anything else we need? A hat. That's a great idea. Right, so let's put our hat on. I've got a nice bubble hat on here. Already feeling a bit warmer. Okay, what else do we need? A scarf. Get my scarf and put it round and tie it up. Nice and cozy. And some gloves. Good idea. Let's put our gloves on. Okay. And what else can you think of? Who said a swimsuit? We don't need a swimsuit. It would be very, very cold. Anything else? Some warm socks and boots. That's a good idea. Let's lift your legs up and put them on. Okay. Okay. Do you think we're ready now? Okay, let's go. Start marching. Off we go. Right. Now, what can we see? Look, can you see the aurora over there, the northern lights? We must be getting close. Okay. Off we go. What else can we see? I can see a reindeer. Let's have a look. Look. This is my reindeer called Rosie. Do you want to say hello? Hello. Okay. Hi, Rosie. Do you like living in the Arctic? Yes, I do. Well, that's very good, isn't it? I bet your nice warm fur keeps you very warm. Okay, so now you're going to go off again and join your friends? Yes, off you go. Right, what's next? Better keep walking. We're not at the North Pole yet. Off we go. Let's get faster. I really want to get there. What can you see? What can you hear? I think I hear a polar bear. This is Bjorn, and he is my son's bear. He is a polar bear, just like in the story. Are you going to say hello? Hello. Now, Bjorn, as you live in the Arctic, perhaps you can tell us how cold it is. Is it as cold as a fridge? Oh, okay. Is it as cold as a freezer? Wow, that's really cold. Is there anywhere colder? Where? The South Pole. So that must be at the bottom of the world. Very far away from where you live. Do you know any creatures that live in the South Pole? we've got Gwen. This is Gwen. Now, Gwen and Bjorn will never really meet because penguins live in Antarctica, in the bottom of the world, and Bjorn lives in the top of the world, in the north. But you know what? I've got a great song to help us remember that. Do you want to join in? Now, you might not know all the words, but you can join in for the chorus when you get to know the words, and we'll have the words on the screen for your grown-up to sing along to. Okay, are you ready? Now once there was a polar bear, his name was Bjorn, Bjorn. He lived in a place called Svalbard, and that's where he was born. He lived right at the top of the world, right in the Arctic Sea. He liked his icy cold home, but got so lonely. Now one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down. Meanwhile the earth keeps spinning around. There are polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Meanwhile, far away there lived a penguin named Gwen. She lived in the Antarctic, which was very cold, my friend. She lived at the bottom of the world, which was a colder place. She liked her icy home, but wanted to see a different face. Now one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down. Meanwhile the earth keeps spinning around. There are polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Now our penguin friend named Gwen had never met a bear. See, down in the Antarctic, furry animals are more than rare. She thought she'd like to meet one to see what they were like. But to get to the Arctic, she'd have to get on a boat tonight. Now one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down. Meanwhile the earth keeps spinning around. There are polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Now up in the Arctic, our bear friend had a thought. I've never met a penguin. I wonder if I ought. He might not have fur but feathers, and 4 feet, not 2. But he heard they ate fish like him, and also walked, not flew. Now one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down. Meanwhile the earth keeps spinning around. There are polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Now Gwen had travelled far abroad on an ice-breaking ship, and then aboard another boat to carry on her trip. It got hot around the equator, and then got cold again. Weeks and months went by for our little friend named Gwen. Now one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down. Meanwhile the earth keeps spinning around. There are polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Months later, on the edge of the ice, Bjorn saw something new. It waddled slowly over, and then said, "How do you do?" They talked all night long of fish and ice and stuff. Location was an issue, but their friendship was enough. Now one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down. Meanwhile the earth keeps spinning around. There are polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. Polar bears in the north, and there's penguins in the south. I'm a bit tired after that. I don't know about you. I think I'd like to have a bit of a rest. What am I thinking? I'm a parent. I'm going to go and find a cold cup of tea that I left somewhere. But before I go and do that, I think that we should go and have a look at the polar bear trapped in ice that we left melting that Marion had. Okay, I now have a little helper who's come into the room, and she's going to help me, aren't you? Yeah? So, my little explorer, did you enjoy watching the ice melt on Marion's video? Okay. Well, you can make your own ice melting pieces at home as well. So what you need to do is find some leaves or some flowers or twigs, and if you put them in some water, a really shallow dish, and put some string inside, but then hanging out the outside of your dish, then when it's frozen, you can use them as tree decorations and hang them outside. And it's so much fun watching them melt in the sunshine. Now, another activity you can do, which my little explorers had to go at, which was from the story that Marion told us. So do you remember how she sprinkled flour as snow over a wintry scene? Well, you can do that at home. So you find more of your twigs and leaves and stones that you've collected, and you can put them on top of either a tray or a black bin bag, or we use an upside down picnic blanket with the waterproof side up. Then what you do is you have your bowl of flour and a tea strainer or a sieve, and then you can sprinkle all over. And when you lift things up afterwards, then you've left a pattern. Now, you guys had fun for an hour, which is a really long time for an activity. And it was really not that difficult to clean up. What we did was we just folded the picnic blanket up, and then I could just lift it all and put it into the green bin afterwards. And if you're really lucky, your little ones might help with the dustpan and brush and the hoover afterwards, as my ones did. Now, I think it's time for our Little Explorers goodbye song. Are you ready for that, Isabel? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to hand you back to Marion for that.
Let's sing our Little Explorers song, so get your waving hands ready. Little explorers, stretch up high. We've been on a polar bear adventure, now we'll say goodbye. Goodbye.
Now, I know we said we were going to go, but we've got one last activity which I highly recommend you try first. Now, I don't know if you remember that in our story, the polar bear made a den. Now, real polar bears sometimes make dens, but mainly it's polar bears, which are mummy polar bears, when they have babies in their tummy. And they go into dens in a state of half hibernation, so really restful, so that they can be ready for when they have their babies. So what you can do, get your grown-up and rest them nicely on a bed or a sofa. Yeah. You going to do that, Isabel? And then you tuck them into their ice cave. I need a blanket or a duvet for this one. And then you tuck some of the toys underneath because they're going to be the babies. And then you've got to be really, really quiet whilst your grown-up mummy polar bear has a rest and waits until her babies come out. Okay, and if you leave her as long as possible, it's even better, okay? And on that note, we'll say thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.